Hey guys, this is a 2018 Acura TLX. Show you around the car. I think it's got a nice style to it, even though this is the last generation. It still looks pretty modern today. As you can see, it's got the super handling all-wheel drive. Apologize for the wind. But yeah, it's got a nice style to it. I like the shape of it. I like the belt line. I like the headlights and I like the grille. Definitely an improvement over the pre-refreshed model, in my opinion. All right, so we're gonna take the TLX on a little drive here. Show you guys what it's made of. Push the start. And it starts right up. I'll show you guys some of the interior features. We'll start with the screen. This basically just controls your radio right here. And this screen up here controls your Apple CarPlay. The touch response of the screen is pretty normal. Could be a little bit quicker. One minor complaint with this is to turn on the heated seats, you have to go through the screen, push that, then a little menu pops up, and then you have to select it here. That could be a little bit annoying for some people if you don't like going through the screen to do things like that. And you also have to do the same thing with some of your climate controls, like the fan speed, or to turn on on or off your AC, you have to go through here. So it could be just a little bit bothersome for some people. This interior, it is starting to look a little bit dated, but I still think it's pretty solid. I think the materials in here are good. Everything in here seems to fit together pretty well. It's not gonna disappoint you, but it's not gonna be the newest and most modern thing in the world. These gauges right here, they're just analog. Pretty, the font is sporty. I like the font of them, but they're pretty plain to look at. You do have this cool super handling all-wheel drive display right here that shows you how much power is going to each wheel in real time. So that's pretty cool to look at. You can also change the display, there's your compass, your average speed, elapsed time, your range, and average fuel economy. So this car averages about 19.5 miles per gallon. Not the best, but it's a V6. So that's kind of to be expected. There's your tire pressure, your oil life, and yeah, but we'll leave it on the all-wheel drive display right here, just because I like looking at that. I think it's a pretty cool display. Other features here, you have your self-steering assist right here. You have your following distance for the radar guided cruise control. These are your cruise control buttons. You push main to turn on the cruise control, and this is your set button right here. This is your resume. This is your cancel. This is to change the center screen display. Here's your radio controls, your volume. There's your Bluetooth. Over here, you do have your lane keep assist on or off. You do have your collision avoidance on or off, and your traction control on or off. Gas release, trunk button, hood release way down there. Down here, you have your typical Honda push button gear selector. So P for park. To put it in reverse, you toggle down. It goes into reverse and the doors lock automatically. Put it in neutral, just another button, and drive is this little circle button right here. Put it in park. You do have your dynamic mode selector, so you have 4 modes. You have normal, sport, sport plus, and econ. I leave it in normal. I don't like economy mode. I think it tailors everything back way too much, so I just leave it in normal. Sport mode is gonna give you a slightly sportier character, just slightly better throttle response. Sport plus is gonna really hold out the gears for you. It's gonna really keep the revs up high. I don't usually leave it in sport plus because it's a little bit too aggressive. I find that sport mode is a happy medium. But this doesn't change the steering or the handling. This only changes the transmission response and the throttle response. But we'll put it back in normal mode here. Down here, you have your phone, your information. You have your Apple CarPlay right here. When you plug your phone in, you just push that. So this is what the Apple CarPlay looks like. You got your maps. Let's see. This is like what the screen looks like, so it's pretty modern. I do like how the Apple CarPlay looks. It definitely looks like more modern than like the infotainment in general. You have like a little like scroll wheel to go through your menu items in this screen up here. When you're using Apple CarPlay, you use this to toggle through each different app or menu item. Down here, once again, you have your electronic parking brake. So now it's engaged, and I'll turn it off there. You have your brake hold, so if you're in traffic and you want to lift your foot off the brake, it'll keep the brake lights on for you, but hold the car to a stop until you hit the gas. So that's a pretty nice feature. And right here is your auto start stop off button. I usually almost always turn this off because I don't totally like the start stop system in this car. It hesitates a little bit and it's just not the best. So I like to leave that off. But yeah, we're gonna take it out on a little drive here. I'll show you guys my thoughts on the TLX. So one thing you notice about the TLX is it has a very smooth ride. It's almost like cushiony in a way. It's not like floaty or anything like that, but it's just very cushiony and very soft. This V6 also makes a really nice growl. I love the sound of it, and it's got such a linear power band to it. It's like just like really smooth power, and I love that. A lot of the newest cars with their turbo engines just don't feel as linear, but this feels very smooth and very predictable, so I like that. I love the power band of this V6. You really can't go wrong. Just driving along here, I can tell it's a really good daily driver. It's pretty quiet in here, and it's an easy car to drive. You don't feel like you're driving something too big. I will say this car does feel like a little bit bigger than I thought it would. I think this car kind of leans more on like the mid-size side of things. But it's by no means a difficult car to drive. I mean, it feels very maneuverable and easy to drive. It glides down the road. Like I said, I love the sound of this V6 engine. Sounds really good, and it has 290 horsepower, and it feels quick. It doesn't like throw you back in your seat or anything like that, but the best way I could describe it is like adequately fast. This car isn't gonna feel slow or like you're not gonna be able to get up to speed in time. It always gets up right up to speed very well. I like the steering. It responds quickly, and it feels direct, and it feels linear too, and it's predictable. It tracks around corners with good smoothness, and let's see, going around this little corner right here. Yeah, it's responsive, definitely. My only complaints with the steering is that it's just like pretty light, especially around center. It's just got kind of like a looser kind of feel, and it's just a little bit numb. For a sports sedan, I think it could communicate just a little bit better, but in terms of like the how direct it is and how precise it is, I think they did a pretty good job. Yeah, just like the communication could be like a little bit better, but it points nice and straight. The car itself feels sure-footed. We're gonna try out this corner right here. Yeah, it just tears around the corner. It's definitely a good handling car, I would say. It's pretty quiet in here. You do hear like a little bit of road noise. It's about average for like an entry-level sports sedan. It's not like totally dead silent, but I am liking the general quietness of this car. I think they did a good job with the sound isolation. I have good visibility. I can see out of the front windshield just fine. You have big side mirrors and a really clear view out of the back window. You got this kind of like shapely hood in front of you, but you can see over it and it adds some presence to the car. Like I said, very soft ride. I think this car is definitely more focused on comfort than sport, but it's still pretty balanced, honestly. Despite having like a really smooth ride, this car does handle pretty well. I don't think it handles quite as well as like a BMW 3 Series. I'd say it's about on par with the C-Class. I think they were kind of like targeting the C-Class when they designed this car, just because it's quiet and smooth. It handles decently well, but it's definitely a lot more focused on comfort. You can have some fun in this car, definitely. Aside from that slow Explorer holding everybody up, I'm having some pretty good time on this back road here. This 9-speed automatic, it's gotten some complaints. To be honest, it's better than I thought it was gonna be. It does shift a little bit slow, but I think it keeps the engine where you want it to be, and it's pretty responsive. Like right there, like it just kind of kicked down and sent me flying, just like no problems. So really, I think this 9-speed isn't as bad as people say it is. It keeps the engine where you want it to be, and there are times when it does feel a little bit hesitant to downshift, but it's not like all the time. I'd say like 70% of the time this 9-speed downshifts when you want it to. But the other 30%, maybe it feels a little bit hesitant. My only real complaint is that the upshifts just feel a little bit slow and a little bit lazy. But it's not bad. It's definitely, it shifts smoothly. You don't really feel the gear shifts all that much. So I think they did a pretty good job tuning this transmission. It definitely works better than it does in cars like the Jeep Cherokee or the Jeep Renegade, for example, or the Chrysler 200. Yeah, it's very smooth when it tracks around the corner. You feel the weight a little bit around the corners, but it tracks very smoothly when you're turning, and there isn't like a whole lot of body lean either, unless you're really going fast, which you shouldn't be doing. But unless you're going at like sports car level speeds, you're not going to feel a whole lot of body lean, and this car is going to feel pretty controlled and pretty confidence inspiring. Yeah, right now, yeah, I feel like I have really good control over where the car is directing itself and where it's going to end up. Yeah, very smooth shifts from this 9-speed. Yeah, it's not the quickest auto start stop, but we're gonna take it on the highway here. Yeah, really, really good handling, surprisingly. Very peppy car for sure. Very fun to wring this car out too. Try out the passing power here. Good passing ability. Smooth and direct steering. I think they did a good job balancing the steering in this car. Just wish it was a little bit heavier and maybe had a little bit more feedback. Stepping on the brakes, they can feel a little bit gritty sometimes. They do like shake the car a little bit, and they could use a more defined bite to them. But we're gonna get back on the highway here. Yeah, very good. Very good performance. And the super handling all-wheel drive, it just grips really well. It's a great highway car. So that was like half throttle for that downshift, just to give you an idea of what this transmission is like. But we're gonna test it out on this Cloverleaf. Feels pretty stable and pretty refined in how it's tracking this corner. Very linear steering. As I said with the brakes, I just wish for like a sports sedan they felt a little bit more powerful and a little bit more confidence inspiring. But that's only like a minor complaint because they do work and they do stop the car just fine. We're gonna try out the paddle shifters. I'll put it in sport mode. So we're in sport mode. I'd say the downshifts respond in like half a second. The upshifts are definitely a little slower to respond. I'd say they take about like a second to respond when you push the paddle. So I'm not sure I'd use the paddle shifters in this car. They feel a little bit pointless to use. I think paddle shifters are only useful if they respond like right away. In this car, they take about a half a second to a full second. So that gives you an idea of what the paddle shifters are like. But when you don't use them for a little bit, it goes back into normal drive. acceleration in sport mode doesn't feel all that different from normal. I think it feels a little bit more peppy, but it's not like a huge difference. Usually normal mode will do the job just fine. We'll try Sport Plus here. See what that does. This transmission definitely a lot more eager to downshift when you're in Sport Plus. Holds the gears out. As you can see, it's just holding it around like 3,000 RPM. See around this corner. I'll put it back in normal. I didn't touch on throttle response. So this gas pedal, it feels like pretty light in its resistance, and it can feel a bit delayed when you initially step on it, but you get used to it pretty quickly. This car reads your inputs pretty well. This car, it reads your mind well, and you get used to the accelerator pretty quickly. There are times when you do have to put your foot into it like a little bit, but it's never a bad thing. It never feels like unresponsive or like it's vague or anything. It's just a little bit light, and it could use just a bit more immediate feedback, I think. Good turning radius. We'll try that again here. Yeah, not bad at all. I'm gonna move so there's no people around. Alright, well that about sums up my thoughts on the TLX. It's a very smooth and very refined car to drive, but it's nicely balanced in the way that it actually handles pretty well, and it tracks around corners really smoothly. It inspires a good amount of confidence. I think this engine has good performance, has good pep, and you can easily just get up to speed whenever you want to. And it has a really good sound, a really linear power band. So I love the engine performance of this car. The 9-speed automatic, it could be a little bit quicker to shift, but it seems to hold the engine in its power band, in its optimum power band. And really, I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. The brakes, I think they could be a little bit more responsive, but they stop the car fine. They feel like decently smooth for the most part. They are a little bit chattery, a little bit gritty feeling, but they stop the car pretty well. This interior, it's looking a little bit dated, but it's also a very solid interior. It's relatively timeless, in my opinion. Everything in here fits together well. Everything feels solid. So really, the interior, it's satisfactory. I could live with it. This is the last generation, keep in mind, so it's not going to have the most modern tech, but I think this interior, they did a pretty good job on making it feel solid. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the TLX. We're going to shut it off here. All right, thanks for watching, everyone.